Okay.
Because I saw where somebody backtracked.
Adams?
Yes.
Jones? Safrati?
Here.
Jackson?
Here.
Brownlee?
Here.
Jansky?
Here.
Agee? Albers?
Here. All regular meeting items and reports will be suspended from this meeting except for the legislation. May I have a motion to temporarily adjourn the meeting for the public hearing?
Second.
Adams?
Yeah.
Jones?
Yes.
Safrati?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
Brownlee? Jansky?
Yes.
Agee?
Yes.
Public hearing. According to Article 7, Section 9 of the Charter of Maple Heights, the following legislation is submitted for a public hearing before the citizens of the city of Maple Heights. Ordinance number 2014-27, an ordinance to make appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Maple Heights, state of Ohio, for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2014, and declaring an emergency.
Are there any proponents for this ordinance? Are there any proponents for this ordinance? Are there any proponents for this ordinance? Are there any opponents for this ordinance? Are there any opponents for this ordinance? Are there any opponents for this ordinance? Being none, may I have a motion to close the public hearing and resume the special meeting, please?
So moved.
Second.
Okay,
Call the roll.
Adams?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Safrati?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
Brownlee?
Yes.
Jansky?
Yes.
Agee?
Yes. Thank you. Moving on to the legislation, please.
On the second reading, 2014-21, an ordinance amending section 26009 of the codified ordinances, amending the medical, dental, and vision care insurance, employee contributions, and authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Medical Mutual Health Care pertaining to group medical insurance for non-union full-time employees and declaring an emergency.
This motion is, or this piece of legislation is on a second reading at this point.
Ordinance number 2014-27, an ordinance to make appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Maple Heights, state of Ohio, for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2014, and declaring an emergency.
Okay, I guess we're going to have to wait for Finance Director to bring some facts and figures for this. But in the meantime, Mayor, are you aware of any communication from the state, Michelle?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Nothing yet.
Okay. So we don't know where we stand as far as emergency? Okay. All right. I guess Irene said she would be here within the half hour. I thought that's what she, is that what she said? Yes. Okay. So we can just,
Just want to temporarily adjourn, Madam President?
um,
We'll take recess.
for what reason? I don't think there's any reason to adjourn. I don't think there are any changes at all. Which, on what? Your question is,
Louder.
yeah, your question is,
My question was if we wanted to discuss 21421, because Alex had was thinking of an amendment toward it, so that the 16 people that were going to be under this hospitalization have the benefit of going on to the union insurance if that seemed to be a better deal than what we currently have for them. But then, from what I heard from either emails or phone calls, the mayor said that probably next year when the unions are going to be voting, if there is something better, then they would automatically have the ability for the choice to move into their health contract. That was one of the questions that we had on the first reading. in the
Yes,
fairness.
and with my conversation with the mayor, and that's what we discussed. And in the legislation, whereabouts council desires that medical mutual health care provide the employer group medical insurance policy for non-union employees for a period of 12 months, beginning the first day of the month following 60 days requirements date of the Affordable Care Act. So that would probably take us into June of next year, and
Probably even before that,
that
maybe before then.
takes effect in 60 days, new insurance. And the reason I did that was I was thinking about our non-union employees. They gave up their pension pickup, they took concessions, furloughs, and I thought we always had medical plans with everybody in the same plan. So, see, now this is the first. And after a lot of thought, and due to the city finances, the deficit we have, I gotta let my own Phillies go and do what's best for the city, even though it's a great big sacrifice for our non-union personnel, which made these sacrifices, and making some more. But if we're gonna hold on to jobs, we're gonna have to address the deficit. And so that's my thinking. And my thinking is next year, June, when this plan comes up before us again, if we have money, we make it a point to address it, to see if we can give them back what all the unions have. We should be pretty close to knowing that, hopefully. And we give them the same plan that everybody gets. That's my thinking.
Good point. Okay. I'd like to move over to 214-27 and make just a couple of comments before we begin, as we're waiting for finance director. I know folks were very, there's a word I could use, but I'm not sure it would be appropriate. But there were many people who really kept asking for meetings, and wondered about the March 1st deadline. And I do have to remind you that last year, we had 5 meetings, beginning on March 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th. Five meetings, so.
You said February.
Yeah, it's February.
So February and March, that's different. She said February.
No,
No, you said February, didn't you?
it was March.
Yeah, but we started in February.
Yeah.
Right, but we did go into March with it. And another good point too, as we look at the figures, hopefully, they won't be too hard, but we will have some changes. If the levy passes, or in May, we will make changes. If the levy doesn't pass in May, we will have to make changes. So just as an aside, I think it would be really helpful if every one of us made a concerted effort to get out there and announce the levy and announce what we needed it for. I understand that we have some neighborhood block watches. That's a good place to do it. And also, we are having some, we also have the forum coming up on the 9th. Isn't that correct, Linda?
Yes.
Candidates forum, and I'm hoping that we can present some information at that time. But in the meantime, if we could gather up some folks that would be interested in being a proponent of this and passing the word, I think that would be really, really helpful, because it's not going to get done without a little bit of a boost from us.
Have the mailers come out yet?
Any other thoughts?
The mailers that you said was going to be mailed
Mail,
out?
that would be mayor.
I'm
Did
sorry,
you hear the question?
something about mailers. What about
Have they been mailed out yet?
now? No,
Will we be able to see them before you mail them out?
probably not.
You're going to do that closer to the May primary day, okay?
Well, that's usually the way the campaigns are run. You mail literature out before, closer to the election. And since, I'm mailing it out and putting it together, like I did the police and fire levy,
Right?
send it out.
I was kind of under the understanding that if it's a city issue, then council should also be involved either in helping contribute toward the mailer or any type of suggestions, or I'm sure you have a printer lined up, but I've offered to help. I've not really heard anything. I don't know if we're going to have maybe a campaign type of meeting for those people that want to get involved a little bit more in what's going on.
Well, to answer your question, Madam President,
Yes.
through the chair, to be real honest, the only member of city council that I've seen put anything out so far that I've actually held and read was Councilman Trojanski, that he mentioned it in his newsletter. So I don't even know who's in and who's not. I mean, I think I know who's not in, but I don't even know who's in. And as I've said before, if members of council are proactive in putting out newsletters in their districts, whether it's a spring, summer, fall, it's always helpful, or a good thing to put an article in their newsletter about the city's finances and about the upcoming issue on the May 6th ballot.
Would it be appropriate to put it on the website then as well,
What's that?
the issue? We now have the issue number, correct? And
Well, you
just
can't
the language.
put anything on the website that says vote or,
I know.
support one way or another. That's illegal.
We can't just announce that we do have a levy on, because a lot of people don't even know.
Well, you can't announce that there's issues on the ballot, the syntax is on the ballot, there's other issues that are on the ballot, so, they could be listed, but you
Right.
cannot ask, for consideration or support one way or another. That's just illegal.
But listed would not be, that wouldn't hurt anything.
Yeah, listing them,
Okay,
fine.
let's see if we can do that.
Mayor,
Madam
in my block
President?
watch meeting, we did talk about it.
I'm sorry,
I said, in one of my block watch meetings,
yeah.
we did talk about it because I had
Oh.
the finance director there, so Richard wasn't the only person.
No, I was talking about
Okay,
an
well,
actual
just tell-
newsletter.
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know if anyone, because that wasn't communicated to me, but he actually had a newsletter that
Okay,
he was kind enough to give me a copy of, that I read what he wrote about, layoffs and things like that, so. But as far as anyone talking about it, I have no
I thought your
idea.
finance director probably told you.
I've been meaning to talk to her and ask her how that went
Okay.
many times, but just haven't had a chance with everything else going on.
Okay.
So.
Madam President,
Yes,
just
Linda?
a comment, and the mayor has mentioned it in the last 3 months of the city newsletter,
Mm-hmm.
and that's about 800 of those go out or are picked up here at the center. And in his article every month,
Your newsletter.
in the senior newsletter, he's mentioned it in one way or another.
Madam President, what about on Facebook, Mayor? Can you put it on Facebook?
That would be,
Well, I put it in mine, and I've seen Richard, and I've seen you put it in there, but then again, it just goes to the people that read it, that
Yeah.
friend us. And I don't have like a humongous following, but,
mhm.
that's still a little bit, people that care and like, so.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
well, one thing about the newsletter or information that should be in newsletters or going out on mailings, and one of the things that I know I get asked, talk to other council people and they get asked, is they want to know why we need the levy. Now, Mayor, I know you talked about it, I know it's in print, but do we want to kind of take that information and try to put it into our newsletter? But I think a better way would be for all of us to get together and say, these are the points that we need to put in our individual letters. So one is kind of the same thing to a degree, but it's accurate. The numbers are accurate, so that when people are reading it, they're getting all of the reasons that we need the levy. Now, I'm in favor of it because I think I don't want to see, again, a budget that has $2 million out of it that we're going to face. I don't think anybody would. But I think people need to know exactly what and everything that has happened that leads us to this point. And I think the only way we can really actually do that is to get and compile all that information.
I agree, but Councilman, again, through the chair, Councilman, like I said earlier, I don't know who's in and who's out. I mean, I know there's been one council member who's clearly out, but the rest I don't know who's in, and some council members have different ways of communicating with their constituents / residents, so again, I don't know who's doing what.
Councilman Jackson, just out of curiosity, you were here at the forum, the community forum that we had, and I thought that between the three of us and the questions and the mayor, I thought that there was a lot of information, factual information that was presented there. Was that not something that you could have used for, or are you expecting us to compile a sheet and give it to everyone? Is that what you're thinking? Clarify for me,
Yeah,
please.
and I think that would, because again, we would have all and complete again and all. Yes, you did get that information. Did I sit down and write down that as you was going through it? No. But I don't see why it would be difficult to compile that. I think it's readily available, whether who's in or out. I just care about who's in and the people who are trying to promote it. So let's promote it with the information. Let's get the information and put it on paper.
Well, to clarify, Madam President, to clarify my comment, Councilman Jackson, when I put out, my political campaign committee put out a flyer 2 years ago to renew the police and fire levies. I knew at that time which council members supported it and who wanted their name on that flyer. I knew at that time it went to print, it was mailed out. At this time, presently, right now, in this building, I don't know who's in and who's out, okay? Because no one has come to me with a full count. There's 7 of you. There's council president. I know there's a couple that are in, but I don't know what the rest are doing. So, again, when that information is given to me, then I can do something with it. If not, then that's okay too.
Madam Chair, I think just as a council, and I think that, and I don't remember exactly what happened with the police and fire levy, but I do know that it helps any type of levy to pass if it's not the council's levy or the mayor's levy, and we all have to get on board with it. And I would like to have the literature that goes out say that, you know, it's council and the mayor is asking for this levy, and I don't want my name specifically on there, but I would love it to be council, and I have no problem monetarily giving you a check for the printing, postage, whatever it's going to take to get this levy to at least get out to the people. And I've asked you for a total, and I don't know if there's been a grand total, and if anybody else wants to contribute, maybe it could be, you know, something that we split somehow, just to get the word out.
Well, Madam President,
Yes.
to Councilwoman Jones, I would not want to say if there are certain members of City Council that are opposed to this levy. That's fine, that's their right, that's their choice. I do not want to have the wording saying supported and endorsed or whatever by City Council, because that is not accurate.
Unless everybody is behind it.
Unless everybody is. If that's the case, which it is, that's fine. Then the council members that want their name, that they're supporting it and endorsing it, same thing, need to communicate that to me.
I would like to be one of those, but then I would also, just off the top of your head, do you have any idea what the cost of the mailer is? And the double side, whatever size, mailed to the registered voters would be $3,000, $5,000, 10, because we're doing citywide, but we're only specifically targeting voter mailing list. Do you have any idea what the cost of it was from?
Usually anytime that, again, Madam President, through the chair to Councilwoman Jones, anytime anything was mailed out politically, you're targeting frequent voters, the religious voters. Depending on the size of the literature, the card stock, et cetera. That postage has gone up, I'm sure, like everything else has gone up.
Right,
So,
it's 48.
you're looking at probably a few $1,000s total with printing and postage, maybe a little less. Again, depending on the size and color, multicolored. It all varies, but I would say anywhere between $2,500 and $3,000 a pop.
Well, I'd like to
Pretty
commit to
accurate.
a $500 check then,
Thank you.
paid out to your campaign, because it comes out of your, okay. If anybody else wants to follow suit, feel free.
I think that if everyone is comfortable doing that, we can do it either on our own. It doesn't have to be public if you're not going to support the levy. I mean, if you want to say it now, go right ahead and do it. Mayor, you've had my support all along.
Madam President, I'm not sure this is quite the right venue for campaign discussion.
Okay, Alex?
I'm planning on, just like I did with the fire and police levy, doing my flyer, being up there at 6:30 in the morning to 7:30 at night. If you want to see the material put out, I'll draw it up and give it all copy before I print it. But that's what I was planning on doing. That way I catch all the voters. I'll miss some of the absentees. But I got a plan that I'm gonna do with the absentees. Is, the last campaign I had to run, I had an opponent, so I got all the absentee addresses in my district.
Okay, I think then Kathy and I can sit down and try to pull together all the information that we had at the community forum, and then take a list and pass it out, and you can do whatever you would like with it, either convert it or whatever. But we'll try to pull that together by next week. We still have a couple, we have a good
More
month.
information if you need it.
Mhm.
Richard had the
Yes,
history.
yes.
I mean, I thought it was pretty clear, the numbers and the figures we gave, although
Yes,
some people probably
yes.
didn't get it, but,
Right. If we
We
could
had a
send-
fact sheet that was on the table and I hand out, and
That was a
had
good
printed
one as well.
copies and I handed them out already.
Yes, that was a good
That
one.
was back on the table.
So we still have a little bit of time before then, but we'll try to do it within the next week, hopefully. Okay, any other comments on that? And then we can actually move on. Irene, are you ready?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Any other comments before we begin there?
she sit with us.
Okay. She can sit down if she wants.
Today is week ordinance.
Okay, Irene, we've already presented the ordinance 2014-27. So if you have any information that you'd like to share with us, we can begin to review it. And then hopefully we can have questions and move on.
Okay. Well, I have I'm fine.
Good evening, thank you all for being patient. I apologize for being late. Trying to make copies.
Save your seat.
Thank you. I'll just pass these out.
Madam Chairman, I have a commitment I'm gonna take off. You guys, sure you guys are gonna spend some time going over this? If that's okay. Unless anybody has any questions.
Do
for
we have
Mike.
a choice?
Do it, if you want me to stay, I will.
Sounds like a serious commitment.
Well, yeah, it could be all now later.
No, you're fine, John. Thank you.
But anyway,
So,
all right, I'll see you guys. I'll see you tomorrow. I'm sure you guys will be back tomorrow. Yeah.
Hey, this is the best place to stand.
you can sit, Eileen, or you can take the center stage, whatever, wherever you're comfortable.
I'm comfortable here.
Okay. Share papers.
Here, I had someone helping me to copy and forgot to copy them for Kathy. So could I just leave yours on this? Okay, first I'd like to explain the process that we endeavored to accomplish this task of getting the budget done. As you all may know, in the month and a half or so that I've been with the city, I have spent quite a bit of time just trying to reconcile the books, get my arms around all the outstanding, I'm catching the voice, excuse my voice, get my arms around all of the outstanding liabilities so that we can separate what's true to 2014 from 2013. So that has been the task that's been before me and been a little challenging because there were so many bills that came in after the beginning of the year that we had to account for. What I gave you were several documents. I gave you a statement of cash position, and I wanted to discuss this first because it drives the whole process and hopefully our thinking as we go through this. As you know, the state auditors are calling every day, you don't get them information. So trying to themselves determine where we will fall in terms of our status. I gave you this statement of cash position. The beginning cash balance, the beginning balance is the fund balance. It's not the cash balance, but the fund balance, which is different from cash. And basically it's like your worth. And it explains where each of the funds that we have on the books falls. So there's a couple of them that maybe about 4 or 5 that have deficits. And that's the whole nature of the state coming in to determine if the deficits are significant and what have you. And then, of course, our challenge and task is to prepare a budget to eliminate these deficits. Some of them I did, some I did not, but I did it in the hopes that, well, we know that in 2 months we have to redo this budget regardless. Whether the levy pass or fail is going to change the complexion of the city. So keep that in mind as we go through this, that some of these numbers will be, most of them will be changing anyway. So as you look, the general fund had a beginning fund balance deficit. The street lighting, the police service, and the fire service levy funds all had deficits. And a lot of times the deficits occur because there's expenses being charged without revenue commensurating with the expenses. And let me just talk about 230 and 235, for example, the police and the fire. It's about the third way down the page. You will see that the police service levy had a deficit of 201,000 plus, the fire 234. So what that says is that we should not be charging expenses just automatically to those funds if they exceed the fund balance. Now, you'll have a sheet in here with the revenue of what's anticipated in terms of the receipts, but with the receipts, the first thing that'll do is to wipe out the deficit. Then what's left is what we should charge this year, not necessarily what we have been traditionally charging. Having said that, a lot of the general fund expenses will reflect the spillover from these funds, because that's where the money has to eventually come from, is the general fund. So I just wanted to start with that to let you know some of the thoughts behind the process that I used. If you look at the next page, is should be the certificate of estimated resources. And this is the estimate that was on file for the temporary budget. It went down in January. I think the date is January the 13th. And the first number you see there for the general fund is what the unencumbered balance. And that encumbered balance takes into consideration any cash deficit plus expenses, paid bills. So that number is a little different from the number on the cash sheet I showed you, the 1,332,000, and this is 1,008,000, which says there's about 400,000 plus of expenses that were not paid, that were outstanding. So that's why those numbers are different. And I think it's important that we understand how to read these documents because it'll help us all through. I've said a lot. I don't want to get technical and confuse everybody, but I think it's important you understand what our sure is. On the estimated resource, the very last column is basically what they call the available fund balance. Thank you very much. So it's the revenue that's anticipated minus that $1 million, $1,800,000, and it's basically saying we have $9,800,000 plus to spend.
No.
Okay. So, and that is if we eradicate the entire 1.8